Alright, this is speech number 6 for speech 100. My name is Ricky McWaters, and the topic for this one is going to be the COVID relief bill that was just passed in Congress. Excuse me. As we all know, it's close to $2 trillion, about 1.925. And from what we know about our current debt, it's close to $30 million. Which 10% of that for one bill. Mind you, our national debt has been building up for years and years and years. But in 2008, it was just over 10 trillion. And in 2016, it was close to 20 trillion. And now in 2021, it's close to 30 trillion. So it's increasing very fast. And for Congress to pass a bill of such magnitude, to say we're willing to go almost 10% to add to the debt just to get us out of this. Well, is it really getting us out of this, or is it maybe a mix of helpful stuff, but also a mix of what we would call pork belly spending, which essentially is just adding somewhat unnecessary stuff. It depends on how you define unnecessary. And so, according to the New York Post, a lot of this spending is, yes, unnecessary, but some of it is race-driven to some extent. It is, if you want to call it reparations, which may sound a little weird at first. However, the bill itself moves quite a bit of funding to Black-owned farms. Now, there's nothing wrong with that by any standards. There's nothing wrong with that by any standards, but why not approach it as we're going to give all of the farmers extra money? We're going to support all of you. Why are we making a point to, or sorry, I should say, why is Congress making a point to say we're only going to help Black farmers with this? We're going to forgive their loans, we're going to help them with whatever money they can get. Why is it limited to that? Why is it not just across the board so you can show people, hey, it doesn't matter what background you come from. It doesn't matter from Black, white, Asian, whatever, you name it. Congress is willing to step in and help me with this. And that looks like to maybe farmers of other races, it doesn't matter, white, Asian, Latino. Well, hey, where's the help I'm getting? And so for Congress to label it as that, even though it wasn't directly labeled as that, it looks like reparations. And for Congress to make that move looks pretty hot, pretty contested in terms of the public view, because people are going to look at that and go, okay, well, this doesn't sound right because you're singling out one group even though you're not, but you're making it a point to say that you're helping everybody even though you're only making a point to help one group. So in that regard, it looks not so good. And according to Fox News, according to Representative Dan Crenshaw, who is personally one of my favorites in Congress, the COVID spending bill has a lot of unnecessary items in it. Some of these include $300 million for the endowment of the arts and the humanities. That's $600 million. Sure, a million is almost a drop in the bucket compared to $2 trillion. However, $600 million that could be going to something else, more homeless aid, more checks to people, more towards maybe minimum wage, more towards salary increases, or more pay for frontline workers, vaccines, you name it. $600 million for arts and humanities? That's important right now? The people that are not in business, the people that are sitting out on the streets, the people that are waiting for those next checks to roll around, what about them? And so that begs the question, well, how much of this is really necessary? Is this more of that pork belly spending? Is this really what we need? And it's not limited to just that. There's $278 million for the IRS and $100 million for NASA. I can understand the NASA one. The IRS, I get it's there for a reason, but nobody likes it. And believe me, I understand there needs to be a case to keep it around and to give it the funding it needs. However, right now, I can't really understand justifying it. The NASA one, I also, as much as I can get behind it, doesn't mean I can justify it. So all of that really adds up to about 900 million, close to $1 billion of seemingly unnecessary spending at the moment, which again doesn't look good for Congress, just makes them look like they are pushing a whole lot of unnecessary stuff in a time where people need everything that they can get. And according to the CRFB, which is the Committee for Responsible Budget, my bad, there was $54 billion included for a minimum wage increase over the next 4 years. There's $10 billion in foreign affairs and $1 billion for science and space. Again, what the minimum wage one I can justify, but $54 billion added on to a $28 trillion debt already. $10 billion in foreign affairs. Is this a COVID relief bill or we're just throwing money away bill? Because if there's $10 billion going to other countries, who knows where, that could be going back to us, why is it going there? What is the point of that? It does us no good. And for science and space, I can understand that, especially if it's going to vaccines, research on COVID, whatnot. But the other two really doesn't make it look so solid. And finally, according to Forbes, there's almost $2 million for one single bridge connecting New York and Canada. And there's $200 million for museums and libraries, and only $825 billion was for COVID relief, and the rest was park bill spending. So that really should tell you everything that you need to know. So even though it looks like most of this relief bill is good for everybody, quite a bit of it was somewhat useless spending. Depends on how you view the urgency of it. If you're a fan of arts, math, science, whatever you name it, okay, that's good. But I don't want to say common sense, but if you are somebody who understands common sense and you know where the money needs to go, it looks like a whole lot of really wasteful spending. And I'm hoping that obviously once we get out of this, Congress can get back to spending somewhat responsibly and appropriately. But there's no guarantee that that'll happen even without this.